Greetings and thank you for joining us. You've joined Future Generation University's new webinar series called Amplify Your Impact, a series designed to share digital skills and accessible resources that help you share your message with your wider community. The mission of the university is to advance research, learning, and action towards inclusive and sustainable community change. We do that through education, action research, peer-to-peer learning, and this webinar series is meant to encapsulate all of those features of our mission. If you haven't already, please take a moment to share your name and where you're coming in from in the chat. And before we get started, I'm going to go through just a few housekeeping details, introduce our speaker, and then turn it over to her for our presentation today. So just an overview of today's webinar series. It's going to last for about an hour. We have about a 30-minute presentation. We'll follow that with a Q&A session for 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to open it up to some discussion. And we're going to lift up some of the tips or suggestions or resources that you have found that helps you in this topic. And we'll finish with any final questions. So if you see on the bottom of your screen, there is a little button that says Q&A. So feel free to enter your questions into that window at any time during the presentation. And then you can use the chat throughout the presentation to share information, tips, suggestions that we'll bring up when we get to the Q&A and more open discussion portion at the end of the presentation. Finally, this presentation is being recorded. The slides that you'll see today and the recording will be shared with you along with some supplemental resources in the coming days following the presentation. So with that, I want to say welcome to our presenter, who is Kris Reiser. Kris advances the university's growth through research and official communications with donors, prospective students, alumni, and partners as our alumni coordinator for Future Generations University. She graduated from Boise State University with her Bachelor of Arts in both French and Spanish, with minors in German and Japanese studies. In college, she developed a keen interest for different cultures and wanting to be able to communicate while exploring them. To develop her language skills, she worked and lived in Morocco for 4 years. This experience led her to pursue her Master of Arts in International Relations with a specialization in security and development from the Universidad Autónoma Barcelona. Kris thrives working cross-culturally and has taught staff and students how to engage and grow locally. She lives in Barcelona and she enjoys hiking around green spaces in her community, trying new cuisines, traveling to lesser-known locations, and experiencing local culture. And she's going to continue to engage and teach us today, leading a presentation on the use of Canva for graphic design. Kris, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. And I just wanted to add like one little tag is I am not a graphic artist. The tools that I'm going to be introducing you to are designed and focused on people that this is not their specialty. And it's because why we selected this is why Canva. It's easy, it's collaborative. It's not meant for a graphic artist necessarily. You can create teams and work with other people on the same project, which is very helpful. And then it's web-based, so you don't have to worry about downloading and updating software. And you have the ability in which to build off of things that other people have made. So one of the things that we're going to go through is I'm going to show you how you can look at different templates, see what matches your aesthetic, and how to go ahead and change those to make them your own and follow your own brand. And so that's part of the thing. So either starting from scratch or doing your following a template. So go ahead and next, please. So the first things that we're going to look at is we're going to look at the features, looking at the home page, the projects, the templates, looking at customization of projects for your brand, using the ruler and guidelines, which is, to me, I think should be more easily available. I can show you exactly how to find it. And the use of AI creation within Canva to kind of as a little tool within a tool. Because there's Canva, the part that we're going to focus on, which is the free edition, and then there's a pro edition. Everything that you see, and I'm going to show you like how to distinguish what's free and what's pro. Even if you see something that you really like that's a pro and so you can't access it, don't necessarily disregard that. You can always recreate that by looking at it and starting by like duplicating it yourself. You just don't have direct access to some of those things, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it as a guide. So we're going to go ahead and actually look at this. I'm going to share my screen with you. And the things that we're going to look at specifically is creating a flyer, a trifold, website assets, how to go ahead and save your designs as templates so that if you're working with other collaborators that you can go ahead and be like, okay, this is our template. You can go ahead and change those. There's Canva has free courses and tutorials that you can actually take directly through them. How to use and share folders within Canva itself, and just having fun and experimenting. I have highlighted my icon here so that you guys can see this. And so this is my personal free version of Canva, and anyone can go ahead and sign up for this. And we have up here, we have what's home. So when you enter in, this is what it looks like. You have home, you have projects that are up here, and then you have templates. Anything with this little crown on it means that this is a pro item. And then we have Canva AI. So that's our first set of things to notice. And next, I'm going to start on a flyer. And so what you can do is I've already pre-selected a flyer here, but what you can do is you can put something up here and say, I'm looking for a flyer, and see what options it gives you. So it's thinking, so now this is interesting because now it's giving me more feedback, and this is going to be a flyer for an event. And so Canva has obviously updated and added more AI features. And what you can see here is they're going ahead and they're giving me different templates that have been created. And here's 4 examples. I'm actually going to go back to my home. So that's one way of starting this. I'm going to go back to my home, and I'm going to go to this first template here that I have pre-selected, because I'm going to show you how I can go ahead and change this to match my brand identity. And so one of the things that we were going to be sending out after this session is information on and the things that you need to consider for brand identity. So first of all, we're not going to do a summer camp because even though we have youth and education, that's not really what we're going to look at. I'm going to go ahead and remove some of these things that don't reflect me. Like here's a logo, and here's another logo. And I want to go ahead, and I've pre-uploaded. So I've added things that are for our brand. So these are all of the logos that I have accessible from the university, and also some pre-approved pictures that we've identified as pictures that are indicative of our programs. So since I need to do a logo, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick green. So this is here. I'm going to make it much smaller so it manages to fit. And you can see it's just drag and drop information. I would prefer that the yellow is not this color on this page. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that by changing the color up here. It's picking up colors from the photos that are here, but I'm going to go ahead and change them to something else. I'm going to add a color that is one of the colors that we use at the university all the time. And so I'm going to add this color. I'm going to put in my color code here, which is, okay. For some reason, it's really slow. It doesn't like that. So missing 1 0. And so these codes right here are the codes that are identifying specific colors. And so I've changed that. This is the color I want. And now I'm changing things for that color specifically. Okay, so here I want that background to be in that blue. It's changed these two different colors. When you're making, I'm going to go ahead and change this color to be a different one. Also, I'm going to add another color, which is our dark green that we use. Right. Well, that was maybe not the best one because I don't want to have a green on green. So I either change my logo or I change the color. So sorry, you guys are getting part of the process of what it's like when you're putting something together. And I'm going to add another color, which is a dark red that we use. All right. And when you see this option down here, change all. So basically, be careful with that. If you do that, it means that it's going to go ahead and any time that that blue is being registered, it's not going to change it to that red. So I can go ahead and do that right here, which that looks okay. All right. My logo is still too big for this. I'm going to move that over here. And I'm already starting to see different things. Like I want to change my photo. When you see this right here, and you can find this under elements, frames are a designed area in which to fit a photo. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my uploads, and I'm going to decide, let's go ahead and we're going to do something for Maple. Okay, so this is, I'm going to pick this one. I'm just going to pick it up, and once it populates, then that's already into the frame. I'm going to go ahead and change this photo as well. And so when I double click on something, it's indicating it. So I want to remove this. So, oh, and I don't want that. I see what I just did. I just erased something I didn't want to. Your best friend is Control Z, and Control Z will undo what you just did. So it's my favorite thing in the world when it comes to computers. So I'm dragging it, and once it centers over the top, it go ahead and puts it inside. Now that I've got this, okay, I realize that maybe this is too high. I'm not seeing exactly what I would like to see. I can move this down so it looks a little bit better. And these are just aesthetic things that I'm changing so that it works better with what's on here. And all I'm doing is trying to make this visible and inviting. Now, the things that I want to point out here is I'm going to point out something else. When you go and have this printed, if you were sending this virtually, this is not a problem. But I'm going to point out from a perspective of budget, this is a very ink heavy flyer. If I was to print this, I would probably not want it to have as much color saturation because of the cost of printing. And so I may change some of those things based off of the consideration of what my budget is. So I'm just moving these down. And so I'm going to say this is going to be out of the woods. And I'm making things up. These things don't exist. And this is a maple festival. And see how I'm bleeding over. I can go ahead and just make this smaller. Maybe make it wider so that it reads across. And I can just move these things around. Right now you're see this over here on my left-hand side of my screen and up here at the top. These are the vectors, so you know whether or not you're going to put something aligned properly, or like is everything aligned, for example. So this is maybe too big. So
Excuse me, Kris.
yeah.
Could you also explain the red highlighted area at the danger zone that we're seeing?
Yeah. Yes. Basically, most printers don't want to have anything, they want everything an inch in. So on this, I'm already designating this as something that I'm going to be sending virtually versus something printed. You need to move those things in at least to a half an inch for ease of printing. So that's what the danger zone is. And it's being very nice to tell us that. And then, so I'm just going to move this here because now we're kind of overlapping things. I know a lot of people who are in, I'm going to say, keep it so that your stuff is not going on top of each other because it creates kind of like a little bit of a clutter, but we have like this as a collage over here. If you want to do multiple things at a time, if you click on it, shift, and then click on all of the other things, like this one, all of these, it's not working. Sorry. I want shift and then, oof, it really doesn't like that. Okay, normally you can click on all of these items using shift or control, but they won't. Okay. Anyway, my point is that here I wanted to show you that you can go ahead and align things on the page. You can align them to the center, to the right, top, middle, down when you have multiple items selected. And I'm going to have to look at that to see why that's not functioning correctly right now. But my point is that you can move entire groups of items. Like all of these listed items could be moved. I'm just going to do this for the sake of the fact that I know that maple season's not in July. And we're going to say it's no, January. And I want to, there's a ton of fonts. One of the things that we have here is we have all of these fonts that you can change them to. And you can change, you want to make sure that you're finding things that are easy for people to read. You can change the size here, right? And when you click on it, you can just change the font size automatically. Other things that you can do is if you don't feel comfortable, right now my screen is at 90%. And if I wanted to get more technical with it, I can increase the size, and then I will be able to move things a little bit more precisely in the design. So I can move it slightly up, slightly down. And notice you're seeing all of the vector lines where, okay, are we aligned? It's showing me that we are all aligned on the right-hand side. It's also giving me information as I move things. Okay, how much distance do I have between the different items on my page? If I'm looking for uniformity, that's very helpful as you move things around. Like right here, if I move it to the right, now I know that everything is aligned on the right-hand side on these different items. And then each one of these things can be updated. You can change everything out, but the whole point is that you can take a design that comes from someone else, something that you like, and you're like, okay, I want to go ahead and I want to change this to be something that reflects me or my organization a little bit better. And you can do that really easily. I mean, I looked at this, let's see here. We started this at 16 after, so 10 minutes. And we have the beginnings, the very beginnings of a maple flyer. And now, so I'm just gonna stop here because this is what it looks like for flyer. I'm going to go back to my home up here. And if I go back to this page, it's already saved. Everything saves automatically as you go, so you don't have to worry about saving because that is what Canva is going to do for you. Now, here, this is a trifold that I picked out. One of the things that future generations design I've noticed is we like right angles. So I wanted to go ahead and show something, and I picked something that has right angles. If I look back here under design, and on this, you can already see there's multiple templates that you can look at. And this is another way to find the different templates versus doing a search in AI search that Canva is putting at the beginning. These are two folds. These are trifolds up here. And so I picked this one because it has right angles and the amount of pictures that it has in it. It doesn't necessarily mean anything that this is a real estate, but I'm looking at the design of it versus what's in this. So one of the things that you can, so now at this point, since I've picked my template, I also want to go ahead and in this page, I want to start looking at switching things out. So we'll pick this one. Notice that wasn't, right, so that wasn't an actual frame. I can do a field-based course flyer, for example. And I want to go ahead and replace the pictures to change what is there. And that's the easier, so I'm just changing my aesthetics. I can go ahead and I want to be consistent with, if I had used a different font, I want to be using the same font consistently. So all the things that you want to make sure that you change are your photos, the content, what's written, the fonts, if you want to use a specific font and being consistent about the font that you use, the colors, and you can usually come up with something pretty amazing that works for your brand fairly simply, as long as, so this is where a portrait photo would actually be nice. So for example, right here, I say I want this to be now a portrait photo. I can go ahead and drag and drop just like this. I can move to orientate that to make this a portrait style photo. So I've adjusted that, and I want to go ahead, put it here, have a look back better. So I want to, sorry. So these are just real simple things. I'm like, which photos have I not used yet?
This looks really good, and it reminds me of last week's webinar series where Bruce talked about how to take good photos and how to edit them, and now we're seeing the application of that. So as you're thinking about what you need to communicate, if you need to print trifold flyers like this, or as you'll discuss shortly, Kris, your web assets, I'm seeing how useful the horizontal like landscape photos are, even for spaces that are, that aren't, long and skinny.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's one of those things that, and the size of the photo really does matter. Because when you have photos that are, so for example, say I want this photo, I want it to be smaller. And there's ways to, so this is right now how big the photo is, but I want this to be only showing this much to fit the space. So then I can go ahead and reframe everything to make sure that I'm catching content that I want to show to our audience. And it changes, and it's easy to move things around. The benefits here is that now if I go up here, I can add people, and I can work with other people on these things. So as I'm working on it, instead of having to send them a hard copy or something, I can go up here and I can go ahead and share my design with another person on my team or whoever I want to. But the aspects that make these things very helpful is making sure that you have your uploads. Like, even though the brand part up here is a pro feature, you can, as long as you have things up in your uploads, and these are all the things that you have discussed previously, you can go ahead and use this almost like a brand depository. So I want to make sure that I have enough time. And so I'm going to stop adjusting this one because I feel like you can see how I've gone ahead and started to make the changes. On the colors up here, if I wanted to make multiple changes at the same time. So I have this color and I want that now to go to, say, green. So it's going to make those changes up here in this different. And if eventually when that pops down there, sometimes you can change all. And so then all of these blocks would change at the same time to match your logo. We're going to go ahead and try that with this one. No. Okay. Anyway, some features are just being really slow today. Now I'm going to show you back at the home. The other part that I thought was really helpful for me, and this is creating website icons. And so they don't call this a website icon generator, but this is what I'm using it for. And I'm going to show you why. For different things, like if I wanted to create a social media post, and because if you have something that's blank, you can go ahead and use it as like a way to try out different content, so to speak. So this is a blank Instagram post. All right, great. Well, if I started to create something on here, I would have to go ahead and look into my elements and say, okay, what am I looking for? Let's see what values brings up, because not value, values. And this is something, maybe a values icon. If I look at these different graphics, I can see what are the images that are invoked by values. So, and the ones that have the little, like I said, the little crown are from the pro, but I want something that is not. And okay, let's say I am not necessarily seeing a values icon that I really like here. Okay, that's fine. I can either pick something here, like maybe, I don't think that's really, in my opinion, doesn't evoke values, but I'm just go with it. So this is like one icon that we could use for saying a message. Now, instead, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to create my own icon based off of what I would prefer to see. And so that's where the Canvas AI or the Canva AI comes into play. Here, I write into this chat box what I would like. And so I would like a values icon with image or capturing equity. Sorry, I'm thinking, why don't you guys, we can do this together. If you guys want to put into the chat, what would we like to have our values icon reflected? And we'll see what it can come up with. I'm curious to see what you think we should put, as far as we can have as many as like 4 things here. So any suggestions besides equity? Let me put my equity in there. Anyone else? Climate.
We have honesty, diversity, climate resilience.
Okay, so I have those 4, and then I'm going to say all in the same icon. And so this is going to be one icon, and we'll see what it can come up with. And previously, you can see what I had tried before. So previously I was doing earth, land, and air, and this is what it had come up with. And I wanted an icon where it was all together, and this is what it produced. So for ours, they've come up with these different icons. Now, the trick that I'm trying to show you here is that in the Pro, you have to pay for the Pro. In this, you can go ahead and edit these, and it's still free. So if I want to go ahead and edit, and this is one of the things that we'll mention later on in our AI discussion. AI makes mistakes. This is not how equity is spelled. And so these are some of the things that you have to be really careful about when you're using AI. So I particularly like this if I was only going to be using one icon, this if I was going to be using several. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this one, bring it up, and I can go ahead and start making changes as to the colors and the themes here. I have all the colors up here. I was to use, I'm going to add another color because this is how we roll. And this is the red that I had. One of the things that when you're doing work, if you were to change it to grayscale, you have to see how difficult it would be to see something. So when you're picking your colors, make sure that they aren't always too dark. The university has a very wonderful color palette. And when I'm working with it, I have to make sure that I go ahead and always add the additional colors that are on the lighter spectrum. Because if something is put in grayscale or if someone has trouble seeing things, if you're colorblind, these are all things to take into consideration for how someone experiences what you create. And if you pick colors that are too similar, you lose a contrast. And so I'm going to use here, I want to make that. And so this right back here, I'm going to go back here. Okay. And then green. And my blue. And I would go ahead and change each one of these items. Okay. I see that I am kind of up for time and I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions. And so I want to just show you again where I found this little trick, and that's back here on the home page, Canva AI, and that's you feed in. And the more information you give this, the better the content you get out of it.
That was so great, Kris. Thank you for showing us all of these ways to use Canva. It's interesting because my background is in visual art and graphic art. So it's extremely interesting to see the variations for how different softwares will allow you to do graphic design and how they relate to things like Adobe suite of products. Of course, I'm of an age where my first playground was word art on Microsoft. This is a big improvement. So
yeah, I first started using this in my previous job, and that it was to putting together social media posts, especially when we didn't have enough photo content. And this is one way of creating content when you don't have photos, because you can, make different collages with different things, and it's easier for browsers to view them than a photo. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to include this specifically on creating like icons and things like that, is because if you, in our next session, when we talk in Google Sites, sometimes you're going to have to consider how many photos you're putting on a site, and will you need to create something that's a little bit lighter, and the use of color, which Deborah actually is the one that really highlighted that for me. The use of color in which to create a dynamic visual instead of always really relying on photos to help that.
So we're seeing some really good questions coming in through the chat. Jonathan asks, are you going to cover links in a project at a later date? And Jonathan, I wonder if you can clarify what a little bit more, what kind of a project? Do you mean like if you like a hyperlink that you can click on? Are you in a digital graphic?
I'm going to address Bill Price's question really quick.
Okay.
As Jonathan brings that question forward. You can. So in Canva, you can have multiple people working on the same thing at the same time, and it will highlight similarly like a Google Doc where you can track where each person's at. I was working with Future Generations Afghanistan, and so to kind of give you an idea of exactly what you can do, I helped them create an annual report using a free edition, and it turned out fabulous. So there's many things that you can do. I mean, not just social media posts and things like that. You can create presentations, annual report, print lots of printed materials. And when I was working with someone on that team, we would go back and forth, and one person would be on one page and I would be on another page. And so we could see each other make changes in real time. I would not suggest working on the same page as you all are moving things about, because depending on how fast your internet is how messy that can get. So, and Melchiade, I saw your, yes, so you can export. So when I use things inside of here, I try to match the background of what I'm making to the background of where it's going to be. So one way to make those things really simple is making sure that background of your target material is white, or you have really good control about whatever color you're going to be putting on, so you match those background using those color codes. Because in the free edition, you cannot remove the background. In the pro edition, you can. But there's I'm trying to make sure that you guys have the tools to make sure that you get the most out of this free edition. And so matching the background, you can go ahead and download that as a PNG. And there's multiple, actually, I didn't show you that. I can show you really quick. Let me reshare my screen and show you. I want to show you. And for example, this one. Up here, I want to share this. So I can copy a link. I can go ahead and I want to download it. And you can have different ways that you can download it. You have PNG, a JPEG, a PDF, and it gives you actually information based off of what the best way is for you to share this. I specifically use PNGs 99.9% of the time because it's a very high quality download, and I can go ahead and manipulate that smaller and bigger on PDFs, presentations, emails, et cetera, et cetera. And it works really, really well. So I can take my icon and actually make it smaller. So this is what you want to do. And then it just downloads it.
Kris, yeah, thank you. I was going to ask you if you would go in and just show us where the download piece was. So that's perfect. Jonathan has clarified his question. He's talking about inputting links to a website or an Eventbrite, for an example, into a flyer, and it's hard when sending out with like email communications. So I'm curious, Kris, how you would embed is there a QR capabilities with the Canva free version? I don't know.
I actually haven't done that. Okay. I'll be honest. I would have to look into it to see, and I can look into that and actually get back to you.
Yeah.
Canva has been really evolving a lot. I think you probably saw it when I first started this. All of a sudden, they want me to, instead of my traditional way of searching for things, now they want me to go through an AI filter, which I was like, wait, I just want my templates. So as every organization starts to evolve and integrate different things, some of the things that I've noticed, especially besides Google Sites, which we're going to go over, one that I noticed when I was researching for that is Canva also now is hosting sites for people to create websites on. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made that much more manageable. So, but I will look into it.
Well, and Jonathan, to address some other options for creating a flyer that would then be disseminated digitally, but that needs to include links. Different email software. So Constant Contact should have an option when you're building an email, that when you click on the image, you can attach a hyperlink to that image. Now you can only attach one hyperlink to one image. So if there's multiple links embedded in the flyer, you can't, there's no way to hover over those links through that platform. That's also true with MailChimp, with my Emma, with a lot of, I mean, that's a pretty standard function for emails. But what is really helpful for flyers is two things: a QR code that anyone can use their mobile device to, and their camera feature, and you can have multiple QR codes embedded in PDFs, in flyers. Too many, there's the visual aspect, there's the overwhelming aspect. This goes to good communication strategy. And typically with any information that you're sending out, you have like one message per instance of communication. But in like for a flyer that Lindsay's made for some of our youth programming, the one message is we want people to come to a training for Maple in the Classroom, but there's 3 different dates that they can sign up to come. And so that might be appropriate to have 3 different QR codes so that they can sign up to attend the specific date that they want to come, as an example. The other thing that we use is a free like short link creation software called Bitly. And we'll put this in the chat. We'll also add these to the supplemental resource guide that we'll send along with this recording and these slides. But what we use Bitly for is you can have a very long, like an Eventbrite has a super long address that you have to click on, and that is unsightly to see if you're typing it out. And nobody's going to take the time to like look at a link that long on a flyer and then type it into their computer or mobile device and then go to that link. So Bitly has a way that you can just name it, and you can say 2025 Fall Festival. And then that's easier to see. It's incumbent on people to maybe type those out, but you have a better chance of getting people to access a link by using a QR code or using a short Bitly or a very short address that people might be willing to type in if they can't just automatically click on the link based on what you're using.
And I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but you don't have to have special software to create a QR code. You can create a QR code directly from your web browser, like from Chrome. If you just go up and click on like the 3 little dots in the corner, and then you get the menu drop down and you hit share. One of the options should be to export or to create the QR code. And you can do that right from your browser. So you don't have to have special software to do that. Anyone can create a QR code at any given time. And then it just saves to your device, and you can upload that image to your flyer or to your graphic or whatever it is that you're creating that you need that QR code for.
And also, this question makes me curious. At the end of this presentation, you'll get a survey, and it'll ask, and you can give some suggestions. If you're interested in this kind of content and you would like to see more, you'd like to see different topics covered, one of the things that isn't included in this first season of this series is email communications, but it occurs to me that might be a really valuable Amplify webinar in the future. So if that's something of interest to you, please indicate that in the survey and let us know. Something that came up last week was some video editing. That is that's a very, as you can see from Kris's presentation, even just scratching the surface just opens up so many more questions and opportunities. And so some of these are extremely complex skills, but we want to make sure that we're giving our community an opportunity to learn more about it so that you feel kind of energized to explore it on your own, and that we can kind of help some of the building blocks to make it easier. So anything that you think of that is digital that will help you communicate or help you present yourselves in the light in which you would like to be seen in your community, let us know, and we can we're considering, you know, season 2 of this webinar series based on the direct feedback that we get. I think we have maybe time for one more question or comment before I share what's going on next week. Kris?
I saw, Sammy, your question. The uses for Canva are very, very diverse. And I know people that do their CDs in this, they actually have CD templates. They have obviously different brochure templates, double folds, trifolds. The annual report that I talked about with them, I know Future Generations Afghanistan continues to make their annual report now with Canva. And because it works, it's simple. And it's less money than having to do constant software downloads and purchasing of software annually. Now, so those are just some of the things that you can do with it. There are multiple things. In next week's session that we have, so we have homework. I'm putting this in here. There's a YouTube video that I'm asking that you guys would go ahead and look at and watch, because there's many things in there that I would like you guys to go ahead and consider for next week's session. Things about your own identity for your organization. And all of these things take some time and reflection, based off of the colors that you want to use, based off of what your text message, like your content you want to use, the mission, the vision, the values, and so many different things. And so this is kind of like a checklist, and it has some other things in here, like some of the tools that I think was previously looked for, as far as like the tutorials. It has where you can find the tutorials on Canva, and tutorials for Google Sites as well. And so I really encourage you to take, I think it's a total of 17 minutes to watch that in preparation, so you can have time to reflect, where to gather those things together for the next session.
Well, with that, Kris, thank you so much for your time. Not only did you give us a wonderful presentation, but you've prepared so much material to supplement it, and not only this week, but next week too. And that's just a wonderful resource. I've learned a lot, even above and beyond what I was already familiar with through the work that you're doing. And so I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone for participating and spending part of their morning or their afternoon or their evening with us. You will get this recording soon, and you can find all of the recordings on our YouTube channel, which you can see on the slide here. You will get a survey, and we value your feedback and thank you for it. And with that, we will look forward to seeing you next week. You don't have to, if you've attended this webinar today, you'll automatically get the reminders to come next week, so you don't have to do anything but watch the pre-work video that Kris has prepared, and we'll see you next week at this time. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Yeah.
And happy creating. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.